Hello, my name is Leif Rovick. My friends and family call me Hal, and I'm here to explain to you a little more about the roof for the Kihu. In my written explanation, it pretty much covers the basics, what we're doing, how long we've been doing it, so forth. Um, my son said it would be better if I told a story because that's what I do best in these situations, and each of these events comes from a story. In this case, I can't really tell as much of this story as I'd like to because it's just beginning and I don't have the permission of them yet. But I'm going to tell an earlier story, really important one. There's the reason why we do what we do. So again, my wife and I have done these mission trips since 2000 with our church and with a different church. We've been to Mexico, Tijuana, Tecate, and Rosarita. We've been to the Gulf Coast, Alabama, and New Orleans, and doing work for people after Hurricane Katrina. It was in 2008 that we traveled on a vacation into Idaho. And while we were there, we saw a little clipping for a trading post in Lapwai. So we went to the trading post, Moccasin Flats, and as we drove around looking for it, based on the address and our GPS, all we saw was a very small, dilapidated little blue sheet metal shed, about 20 by 20. No signs and no lights on. And going around once or twice, we finally decided perhaps they weren't open and prepared to leave when a woman came out and said, "Oh, would you like to come in? I'm just opening now." We took the invitation and went inside. Inside that little tiny shed was some of the most beautiful native artwork and crafts we'd ever seen. They had things made from bone, things made from beads and leather, from antlers. They had jewelry, belts, shirts, things to make beadwork with and do work like that, books, and just a beautiful, beautiful collection. And as we were walking around, the proprietor, her name was Ruth, she was a white woman, and she told us her story. She had been married to a native man, and together they had lived outside of the tribe, and then he'd moved back to retire in his community in Lapwai. And he was growing as an elder of the tribe when he passed away. And it was very sudden and very tragic for her, about 5 years before when this conversation we were having. And then she explained that a year after that, their youngest son was killed as a pedestrian in a hit and run. As she talked about these two tragedies, you could just see in her heart that they were there. They were just longed. And she also shared to her tribe, her adopted tribe, the Nez Perce. They refer to themselves as the Nimipu. And she told the stories about their struggles, both historically and current. And as she talked, a very statuesque man walked in, native with a ponytail, very tall, and walked around the store. And as he left, he said, "Hey, Ruth, I left some fish in your freezer and some firewood on your front porch," and walked out. And I looked at her and she said, "Did you see that?" I said, "Yeah, that was pretty cool." And she says, "Oh no, the Nez Perce have a tradition that for a year after you've had a loss, they provide you with meat, fish, and firewood." Well, her loss had been 4 and 5 years before. So I asked, "Did you have another loss?" And she said, "No, they've been taking care of me ever since." That conversation planted a seed. I know we'd already built homes, we'd repaired homes, we'd done lots of work around, and we thought about this little trading post and what it was doing to benefit both her through the tribe and the tribe through her. And I thought I'd like to go back there and fix their trading post. It took 2 years, a lot of awkward conversations. They admitted afterwards that they didn't really trust us to get any of the work done. But we kind of had to force ourselves as we lost our other tasks we could do in Mexico that year. So our church financed it. We took 34 people. We showed up in Lapwai. We camped on a local person's property. And in 4.5 days, with those 34 people, both teenagers and adults, we rebuilt that trading post, including a new roof. We roofed a native man's house, family home. We built a deck with a covered porch for an elder woman. We poured a slab as rent for our landlord, and we helped paint a house. At the end of those 4.5 days, we were invited to the powwow. I remember I was so tired I fell asleep. And we woke up the next morning very, very early and left. John, her son, came to see us off and saw that we were already gone and saw what we had accomplished. He wrote us a note later on explaining what had been accomplished. And in the note he said, it was more than just a roof, a slab, a deck. He said, we had touched the entire community. And people were asking questions about what happened, who was here, why did they do that? And that began a relationship for now 12 years. And each year we've gone back with some interruptions. And we've done work for members of the tribe. We've done more work for the trading post. But we've also done things like attend the powwow and dance, attend a healing ceremony, sweat, potlucks, movies in the park. They've showed us their regalia, their handmade items, bows and arrows and so forth. And a relationship is formed. We'll be going back there again in June, again with our church. And the stories are similar because this one began with a seed in much the same way that this roof for the Hopi man began with a seed of a conversation. That conversation was 3 years ago. And because of COVID, it took longer to sort out. And again, very awkward. How do you explain to somebody that you actually want to help them? They're not used to people from outside offering to help. And so this is the result of that conversation, those conversations, and being able to sort out what we wanted to do. And my son pointed out, he says, so Dad, what is this all about really? And we realized that it's really about community. It's the community of those who gather to go build. It's the community we go and build for. And it's the community that bridges between them. And that's the reason we go. And that's the reason we're taking this trip. And that's the reason we're asking your help. If you can't give, then pray. If you don't pray, then keep good thoughts. And most of all, keep hope in your heart, as that is the most important thing. And thank you for your time.